the barn used to be a horse barn.
Oh, yeah.
And there was, we put concrete in the hallways. We put concrete for the concrete everywhere. I mean, it's just now it's a concrete masterpiece. And I remember we had this water spout that had originally been used to fill up a trough for the horses.
It was just kind of, with the way that the lab was set up, it was just in a very odd spot. Like, it just
right in front of the door.
Like, just right there. And it was a few inches in front, and just a very awkward position.
So I get the gusto. I said, you know what? I can bump it into it. I can't move things. It's awkward. We're having people come in. I'm going to cut it off. Just going to cut off this pipe. And I call up Richard. He's in Mexico.
Yeah.
They're at their place in Mexico. Yeah. And I said, what do I do? He goes, what do you mean what do you do? You get a hacksaw and you cut it, mate. I said, well, isn't there water going to come out? He goes, yeah, a little water will come out from the line, but it's not hooked up to anything. I said, are you sure? And he goes, mate, you can trust me. And his voice was a little slurred, just a little bit. I said, I'll trust this guy. So I cut off the line, and water starts coming out. It doesn't stop. And I call him up. I'm like, Richard.
Yeah.
Water's coming out. It's not stopping. Give it another half hour, mate, and then call me back. Call him back in half an hour. He's like, take video, send me video. Take pictures, send me pictures. So I spent like 20 minutes taking video and pictures. I sent it to him. I'm like, so what do you think of the video and pictures? He goes, video and pictures? I'm in Mexico. I can't get video and pictures. So we tried. So basically it was still hooked up to the house.
Right.
And I had, by the third time I called him, I was on my third beer or second beer. And I just relaxed. And I knew we would take care of it.
Right.
And I found...
Got a plumber here.
I had already found out where it was hooked up to the house. The plumber got there, shut off the water, took care of business. Next thing you know, no concerns.
Yep.
What is our fourth and final story for flooding? Oh, I love this story.
This
is my favorite story.
We were doing a round of 494. We had just finished a round of 494, like concrete mixes. So we were on the day of ripping and stripping.
494, it's a year's worth of concrete testing. With a minimum of 3 samples for every one break date that we're doing.
Well, and that's for the 494. There's flex on 3, 7, and 20. Like, it's just an obscene amount of concrete. So John had been scheduled for just a ridiculous amount of phone calls that day. It was so crazy.
A lot of meetings.
So David and I were working on rip and strips.
I was filling up the tanks.
John was filling up the tanks, and he's like, I have to go jump on this conference call. Whitney, can you keep an eye on the tanks?
2 of them.
And we were...
I said, can you keep 2 eyes on that one tank?
Yeah. So he's like, check in 10 or 15 minutes. So I set my alarm, and I go check, and it still, like, had several inches to go. So David and I are trying to freaking rip and strip these stinking flex molds. They are the worst.
The worst.
And we're trying to figure out a better way to do it. And there's not a better way to do it.
You know what's even worse than stripping flex beams? Cleaning up a flooded lab.
Oh, well, you didn't know. You didn't do it. So we're trying. David and I are trying to, put our engineering minds together and figure out a better way to clean these, heating it up like we were just going. Anyways,
problem solvers.
There's not a good way to clean these stinking molds. It's just it's
you
just
can
bad.
Tell the severity of a certain situation by how certain people divert.
So we're focused on this, having very detailed conversations, trying to figure it out.
There it is.
And Patchouli, our photographer, was also there that day, and she pops into the room where we're ripping and stripping all of these samples, and she's like, the lab is flooding. I was like, what? I had forgotten that I was in charge of keeping an eye on the tank, and literally, we had tanks all over the lab because there were so many samples.
So many samples.
And literally was everywhere. So I grab the freaking squeegee and I am like working, and I'm like, David, grab a mop. Patchouli, grab a bunch of towels. So all three of us are like scrambling because I knew John was going to be getting off the call quick, and he was going to be freaking pissed if he came down to the lab and saw that
You said that I don't have any experience. You didn't clean up the
I'm not in that
I
one.
flooded the original lab.
Oh,
so
yeah, I
if
guess
anybody
so.
has experience and
You
patience
do.
with that, is
Yeah.
this guy.
Anyways, I
Anyways.
felt like a jerk because I was supposed to be paying attention and did not. So there were three of us working, and I
so
got
proud of
quite the workout. We got it cleaned up though. You came
You did.
downstairs.
That lab,
He was like,
that
the floor looks amazing.
Why did you guys mop? It's a Tuesday. We mop on Thursdays. Or it's a Monday. We mop
Right.
on Thursdays. So,
Yeah. Anyways, got it cleaned up. Got everything squared away. Although you did find some water underneath the flammable locker.
Underneath the tanks, underneath the garbage
Yeah,
barrel.
we try. I thought
It's a lot of water. You know, here's the
It
thing.
just kind of sneaks in all these cracks and crevices.
And the harsh reality is, we do these stories about, the flooding and, cleaning up the lab. This happens in every single
Sure.
lab, throughout the world, globally.
Right.
And the difference between a good lab and a bad lab is the recovery.
Sure.
I've been in labs where you stepped over a barrier to get into the lab, and there was a certain amount of fluid just on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Or I went into labs where the closed loop hydraulic press, the compression machine, as they were using it, it was leaking. I've been in 2 different labs
Wow.
where the compression machine was leaking. So, I know we screwed up a few times or popped a hole in the
Sure.
tank, and it's going to probably happen again. We deal with a lot of water. I mean, that's why we have spill kits, and that's why we clean, and we deal mainly with water.
Sure.
But, it's the recovery
Sure.
that's important, and that's the attention to detail so that we try to make sure it never happens.
Oh, sure.
So, anyway, we'd like to be a little bit louder and a little bit more, passionate about these stories, but the kids are sleeping, and we're
Right.
trying to get ready for this trip tomorrow.
Yep.
So, anyway, we hope you enjoyed the story.
Yeah, we do. Go concrete.
Beat asphalt.